Hey friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. Today I'm going to do a full garden tour. We're going to go through everything. The garden is completely planted out. Well, I shouldn't say completely. There's one thing that's not planted, which is actually my sweet potatoes. And those were supposed to be shipped to me this week, but I ordered them from Johnny Seeds, and I called them this week because I haven't gotten them, and they said that the growers of the sweet potato slips had an issue. There was too much water in the field, and then when they went to harvest them, they didn't plump up, I guess, as well as they wanted them to. So they're a week delayed, so they're not going to be shipped till next week. So I'm not going to get those planted, unfortunately, until next week. Hopefully we have enough time. I've never grown sweet potatoes before, so this will be a brand new thing to me. But, you know, I guess if Johnny Seeds is shipping out to hundreds and hundreds of people, then we're all in the same boat. So hopefully it turns out just fine. So what I want to do first is show you the blueberry patch. I did a ton of work to the blueberry patch last week, and let's go look at it because I'm super happy. I'm proud of the work. It's something that I've been putting off for way too long. I should have done this last year, but I didn't have the fertilizer I needed, and I didn't have the time, and I just didn't get to it. I should have gotten to it, but I didn't. So we did it yesterday, and I'm happy about that. So let's go look at it. I mulched the entire area with wood chips. These were wood chips I got free from woodchip.com. This area, I'll show you guys what it looked like before. It was a huge weedy mess. Every time I looked out one of my windows in my front living room, I could look right out here, and it was just depressing me. So I really wanted to make sure I got out here and took care of it. And it's not perfect. I still need to take care of those weeds right there, but I got the majority of the weeds up, and then I fed them with down to earth all natural fertilizer, the acidic mix, so it's 4 blueberries. And I put about a half a cup or so. I just divided the whole box, it was a 5-pound box, evenly between each bush. And then I put a good 5 or 6 inches of culture wood chips along the whole area. Now I did make sure not to put the wood chips on the base of the blueberry bushes because I don't want it to rot or mildew the bark of the actual plant. But I wanted to make sure that I got a good layer so that we don't get weeds and that it'll hold moisture, because my blueberry patch is not irrigated like the rest of my property is. They were a good mix of actual wood chips and leaf material, and so when I was mulching them, I can show you there was beautiful mycelium in here, and even when I'm standing over here right now and talking to you guys about this, I can smell that mycelium, and it's what smells like earth. You know when it rains and either you're out in the forest or you've gone on a hike or something, and you get that like woody smell, that really nutty, yummy, earthy smell? That's actually coming from the mycelium. I just learned that actually, and that's what it smells like as I'm standing here talking to you guys. Sorry if you can hear the siren. I do live in the city. I'm just really happy to have this done. You can actually see, let me show you, there are thousands of blueberries on the blueberry bushes, and I can't wait for them to ripen up. We kind of had a little bit of a blunder last year when it came to our blueberries. I harvested almost all of them in June, and we put them in our deep freeze, and at that point we had a deep freeze in our shop, and we were doing some electrical stuff in the shop, and we turned the electricity off so we could do the electrical work. And then we went on a trip for a week. We forgot to turn it back on, so we lost the majority of those blueberries. So I didn't really get to do much with them. We ate a ton fresh and they were super good, but I didn't get to do a bunch of preservation with them other than freeze them. I was gonna do, you know, like cobblers and jams and all these things, but we're gonna do it this year, hopefully, as long as they come in. So now I'm standing in my orchard, and right here, I did a big project on the back of the property. I'll show you when we get there. But there was all these limbs. They go from over there all the way to over here. And there's a big one right over there that fell, or we cut them, a combination of the two. And this is our burn pile that's buried. And I want to have a fire pit, I don't know, this coming weeks or so, to have friends over, and we'll cut all this up and we'll burn it and we'll roast sausages or something. It'll be really fun. So that's what needs to be taken care of over here. Now we've kind of got exciting news when it comes to the orchard. The 2 apple trees, you know what? I'm looking and I don't see any apples on this tree. It did blossom. I made sure that it blossomed. Last year, this is an apple tree that didn't produce any fruit. I can't remember thinking back. Oh, there's an apple right there. Okay, so we're good. And here is an apple. I just saw one right here. So they're really green, so they're hard to see. So this tree did not produce any fruit last year, and so I really wanted to watch it and make sure that it produced fruit this year because, oh yeah, there's a bunch of them. Okay, so good. I'm glad that that tree is producing, so we don't need to worry about that. The other 2 apple trees are producing really well. I can show you them. And then the Asian pear tree has tons of Asian pears on it. My husband loves Asian pears. And the Bartlett pear tree has fruit on it. Last time I was with you guys, I was worried about this little bit of rust that I'm seeing. It's a fungal thing on my Bartlett pear tree, but it really is not affecting much of the tree. There's only a couple areas where I'm seeing that. Like this is one branch that has it. Last year, the entire tree was covered in that. For the most part, the leaves look a lot healthier this year. So I'm pretty happy about that. And there is a lot of fruit on this tree. Probably got 40 plums last year. And on this one branch alone, there's probably 40 plums. So we are gonna be getting tons of plums. With the plums, we're gonna eat them fresh. And then I'm also gonna make some Asian plum sauce. Asian plum sauce is so good, especially homemade. Hopefully we get some homemade peppers and onions and all these things that we can add into them. This trellis was originally my loofah trellis, which I do have some loofahs in here, but man, they are not doing much. That's a loofah right there. And there's a loofah right there. I planted probably 25 seeds here because I know that their seed germination is pretty poor. And I planted about 20 seeds here. And on this side, I only got 2 to germinate. There's one there and there's one there. They've been germinated for probably 2 weeks now and they barely had their true leaves. And I don't know if that's normal because I've never grown loofah before, but it seems like that's pretty slow. So these are the pole beans. I have Blue Lake pole beans over here and rattlesnake pole beans over here. And I'm glad I did that because if the loofahs don't end up doing anything, at least I'm gonna get some pole beans to grow. And they look really healthy and good there. Coming over to the 2 tomato trellises. The tomatoes are finally, look at this. They are touching the top of the trellis here. I'm gonna weave this one in a little bit. And there are a few blossoms here. I'm gonna actually pluck those off right now because this tomato plant still needs to get established a little bit more before it produces any fruit. I want it to actually be growing a little bit up here, but look at this one. I've already started weaving this one in and out. This one, let's go ahead and get this guy in here. This is exactly what I wanted with this trellis, to weave the tomatoes up this trellis. Here's some more buds. I'm gonna take those off. You wanna track the main stem. Anywhere you see a branch coming out at a 45-degree angle, you actually wanna clip that. That is a sucker. Can be turned into a whole nother clone plant actually of this plant. And I don't want this plant trying to create more plants of itself. I want it to focus on this one plant. So by cutting that off, it's actually gonna create a much stronger, healthier plant in the long run. And as I'm talking to you, I see this one right here, and I'm gonna pluck that one off as well. And they're just all looking really fantastic. Down here, I have some black bean bush beans that are growing. That was an experiment. I just threw those in here to see what would happen. And they look really good. I mean, there's some bug damage on there, but they'll be fine, I think. Coming from the 2 tomato trellises that I have here, last time you were with me, I alluded to planting in the walkways, and I never got to explain that to you. And this is what I meant. I actually planted more tomatoes in this walkway. I built an exact replica of the tomato trellis with the cattle panels and the T-posts. And I got another 11 tomatoes planted in here. These were the tomatoes actually along here that I started from seed back April 11th when I had that huge frost and I lost a ton of my seed. And they're doing really well. The first 3 are chocolate striped tomatoes, and this is red centerfill, and I got 3 of those. And what that means, I guess it's the French word for 100, because those tomatoes give off these huge clusters and they're red. I wanted to do Berry's Crazy Cherry, but the ones that froze, and then I tried to replant them and germinate them, and they just never took. But these ones are doing really well, so I'm happy to see how those turn out. And then I also have peas planted between the tomatoes. Right in there, you can see those peas. I'm gonna run some string along here when they get a little bit taller to trellis them up. And those were peas that I on accident got wet and they pre-sprouted. So I needed somewhere to throw them in, and I threw them in right here. I'm happy about how they're looking. Coming from that tomato trellis right here we have our potatoes, and these potatoes are in a no-till roost out style. And what I've done since last time you were here in the garden is my husband has mowed twice, and each time he's mowed, I put probably a good couple inches of grass clippings on here. And I've also taken a bunch of leaves because I had extra leaves, and I put leaves. So I've done 2 layers, 1 layer of grass, 1 layer of leaves, 1 layer of grass, 1 layer of leaves. I guess a total of 4 layers. And we are gonna see how that goes. Roost out method is technically with straw, but I have to buy straw, and I'm gonna be doing some sweet potatoes in these straw bales. Actually, I wanna do some straw bale gardening here. But each one of those bales cost me $9.99 plus tax. And so that is kind of spendy if you think about it. So if I was to do this whole row, I have over 30 feet here. So that would cost me quite a bit of money to do that. And leaves are a free resource for me. So that's why I'm trying that. The plants seem to be really healthy and looking great. I've only watered them 1 time. They seem to be holding in that moisture, which I'm happy about. So we're gonna continue to see. I've got maybe 5 different varieties in here. I can't remember exactly which ones I have. But when we harvest them, it's gonna be super fun to see how they did. Coming from there, we've got our first raised bed. Now, I don't know what to think about this. These are my peas here along this whole area, even in that other bed over there. And I thought these were gonna be short peas. I thought they were gonna be about 24 inches tall because that's how tall the peas were that I grew last year. And these are huge. Now, I'm gonna show you in a different area how tall they are. They're taller than me. But I never trellised them, and now that I haven't trellised them, there's no way I can trellis them because they're completely bent and kind of tangled together. So what I'm gonna do is just let them go. I'm gonna let them grow because those are shelling peas, so they're not like sugar snap peas where I wanna come in and eat them and snack on them. I'm gonna let them all grow and mature, and then I'm just gonna pull the whole plant up and pull all the pea pods, and hopefully slugs or anything don't get to them. But we're just gonna let them go and see what happens because I didn't trellis them. Next year I am gonna trellis them for sure. But I have the same thing going on over here where they're just flopped on top of each other. They have tons of flowers and blossoms on them, so they don't seem to be hurting that way. And they are starting to grow some pods on the underside where like the bottom part where they started growing a while ago. We swing over here, the dill and the nasturtiums and the basil that I planted in this pot are doing really well along with the chives. I've got carrots along the inside that are growing really well, and that is a big patch of dill. It's not doing as well as the dill that was in that pot I just showed you. That's telling me that I don't think the soil in these beds are as healthy as the soil that was in those pots. So I'm gonna continue to try to amend these beds and make them healthier and healthier as possible each year. But there are carrots all in here as well. There's a bunch of lettuce that were volunteer lettuce. We're actually gonna have tacos tonight for dinner, and I'm gonna harvest a bunch of lettuce. And tomorrow I'm gonna come out and harvest all the cilantro. I'm gonna harvest some today because we're gonna have tacos, but that cilantro is looking beautiful. I wanna make sure I get it before it bolts. Coming over here, you can see that there's just so much more cilantro along this outside edge. Along the back here, I have calendula that I planted from seed that's doing really well. I'm gonna try to gift some of that to my sister. She's got some eczema issues like I do, and so we're gonna try to get that and make a salve out of it for our skin. In here, I've got a bunch of carrots. These carrots are looking so good. That's a volunteer tomato plant I'm just letting go. Right there. There's actually 2 of them, I guess. I might pull it, I don't know, but for now, we're just gonna let it go. And then there are some weeds, like let's pull that. That's a blackberry, actually. And here's a weed too. Can't help myself. Oh, and that's a tomato plant right there. This is strawberry mint, and I want to make mojitos out of this. So coming to this next bed, next 2 beds I should say, because it's this bed and the one over there, I've got all my peppers in this bed. I don't know how many peppers I planted out, but what I've done to each one of these peppers is I've nipped the tops of them off. The reason I did that is because I want to encourage bushiness. There is a hormone, I guess, I can't remember the name of it, that's at the top of a pepper plant. And when you've got that hormone that's driving the plant up and tall, that's what the hormone does, is it drives the plant to grow up and tall and tall and tall. So if you nip that off, then you're nipping off that hormone signal. And so what that does, it allows the plant to become bushier because each area where there's a leaf, a branch is gonna stem out of that, and you're gonna get way more bushiness. So there were some flowers at the top of these plants, but I don't mind snipping those off because the benefits of snipping those pepper flowers off now is actually going to benefit us in the long run, even though it is hard to snip those flowers off because those are going to turn into peppers. But hopefully we'll have an exponential number of peppers by doing that, because we're gonna get a lot more branches and a lot more flowers. It's kind of the same concept as the tomatoes, where I'm cutting off the flowers now on those tomatoes to let those plants get really healthy before they start putting all their energy into the fruit production. I want the healthiest and most established plant possible so that it hopefully can produce the most produce for me. So honestly, my pepper harvest last year was really bad and I didn't get that many peppers, but I'm hoping that this year with my fertilization schedule that I'm doing and the nipping this, that I'm gonna be getting a better harvest. I have some echinacea here. I wanna make an echinacea tincture, and then along both sides of this bed, I have Walla Walla onions. Last night when I was planting some of these pepper plants out, I went through and what's called spooning is you come through and you kind of dig the dirt away from the onion so that it allows the bulb to grow bigger. I didn't do it along this side, but I did it along that side. Coming from that pepper bed, we're gonna head to our other pepper bed. I've got some more calendula and a zinnia. That's my first zinnia to flower. I've got chamomile all in here, and then I have tons of pepper plants in here. Between each pepper plant, there's a basil plant, and then I did go through and around each basil plant, I planted some more carrots for a second harvest of carrots. This is a perfect example of that bushiness on a pepper plant that I was talking about earlier. Here I nipped this pepper plant and there's already a new shoot here and one starting there, and this is a new shoot and that's a new shoot. I have all this beautiful lettuce. I'm gonna harvest a bunch of this later, and a weed there I just picked. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, look at that. That is my second flower to flower this year. I've never had a nasturtium flower before until today. Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. I have more chamomile here and another nasturtium plant over there. I can't believe that flowered, you guys. That's awesome. Nasturtiums, everybody has nasturtiums in their garden, and I didn't have them in my garden. And so now that I have nasturtiums in my garden, I feel like a true gardener. I don't know why, but gosh, that makes me so happy. I'm thrilled that that just bloomed. Now those are edible, so you can put those in your salads and eat them, and they'll make the salads beautiful. Let's actually taste it together. I'm a little nervous to taste it. Everyone says it's good and that it tastes peppery. I feel a little bit bad cutting this. Tastes fine. Tastes like lettuce, I guess. Like a little bit peppery lettuce, I guess. I'm gonna taste a leaf too, because the leaves are edible as well. All right, I don't know if I would grow the leaves for lettuce mix because that's a little bit bitter and not super great, but the flowers, actually the aftertaste isn't bad. You know, I don't usually just eat lettuce. Let's taste this lettuce actually. Okay. So I should say I don't usually just eat lettuce by itself, and this lettuce tastes like lettuce. And then nasturtium leaves taste pretty much like nasturtiums, or not nasturtium, yes, they taste like nasturtiums, but they kind of just taste like lettuce. So that's exciting. As I was just talking to you guys, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that my bachelor buttons are starting to bloom as well. Things are happening on the homestead. We are getting flowers blooming, and tomorrow I'm gonna be doing a big harvest. So I feel like garden season is officially like full bore going. This is super fun. So next, I want to show you guys these pots here. My sister gifted me these pots, and I had some seeds that actually I had somehow got the seeds wet, and when I looked at them, they had already started to sprout. So I panicked and I threw them in the pots, and they're looking beautiful. They've all well, I shouldn't say all because I don't know how many I put in there, but each pot has bush beans. They're bush beans. These are provider bush beans, and then I have some dragon tongue in some of them and some blue lake bush beans. I don't know. This must be dragon tongue because that's what this seed looks like, but I don't know exactly what's in each one. But I just know that hopefully I'm going to be getting some bush beans out of here because my bush beans in my other area aren't looking super great. Coming from the 2 pepper beds, we've got our squash beds here. This is mostly summer squash and that's mostly winter squash, but there's definitely some summer squash in here as well. These 2 are spaghetti squash here. That is a Cinderella pumpkin, Walla Walla onions, and this beauty here is a black beauty zucchini, and it looks like it's about to flower. I cannot wait to have zucchini. I love zucchini. And there's another one. These 2 I actually just planted yesterday. I went to the feed store and they had some patty pan, and I didn't grow any patty pan from seed myself, so I went ahead and picked that up, and I thought I would give that a try. That, I don't know what it is. This one, oh, this is another one I bought. This was another one I bought yesterday actually at the feed store too. I didn't have a dark green zucchini. Well, I guess I don't know. I just saw this and had to buy it. The early prolific from MI Gardener are looking really good. And I'm not exactly sure what these 2 are. I know that this is a winter squash because I'm gonna let it vine out this way. And these 2 are, I believe, butternut. Here I have some spaghetti squash, sugar pie pumpkin, and I don't know what those 2 are. Those almost look like volunteers to me because I would not have planted them in that spot. And I have a volunteer tomato plant there, a really healthy one there, and a really healthy one there. In this bed, I probably had 100 volunteer tomato plants. And because this was one of my tomato beds last year, I had 3 tomato beds. And yesterday I came through and I pulled all of them up except for those 3. I guess there's 4, there's 1 there too. There's 5, there's 1 there too. And I might eventually pull those ones up as well, but I kind of want to give some volunteer tomato plants a chance. Now I know these squashes are going to get huge and bushy and viney and stuff, so I don't know if it's realistic to try to save those or try to see what happens. But I wanted to try to give them somewhat of a chance because that was free labor I didn't have to do. They just came up on their own, so I want to try to give them somewhat of an opportunity to produce something for me if they feel the need like they can or want to. Over here, I have some more Cinderella pumpkins here. I guess I bought more plants yesterday than I thought I did. I bought this pumpkin. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that, but I thought that looked like a cool pumpkin. I noticed that this one sprouted yesterday, but the seed is still on it. I'm gonna try to, there we go. I don't remember what this one is. I think this is a blue Hubbard squash here. I think that's what that one is that got a little bit bug eaten. Those 3 squashes right there are Jack B. Littles. Hopefully I want to decorate my house with those. Those are those little white pumpkins. And then I have a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin here. I don't know what those 2 are. If I planted them, they're either a blue Hubbard or a sweet meat. I think they're a sweet meat, but they took a long time to sprout, so that's why I actually planted these jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, because I didn't think those were going to sprout. So hopefully I'm going to give everything an opportunity to produce something for me. I have a ton of spinach I'm going to harvest tomorrow. I have another Cinderella pumpkin here, and I have some more jack-o'-lantern pumpkins in the corner here. And these are those peas, and you can see how tall they are. These are the same variety of peas that I have planted over there, and you can see how tall they are. I'm 5'4", and they are taller than me. And so that's why I definitely should have trellised them up, because clearly these peas need to be trellised, but I didn't know that. And so hopefully those produce for me, but for sure these are gonna produce for me. There are tons of pea pods in here. Last year I didn't fully notice the difference between shelling peas and sweet peas, and I was eating shelling peas like sweet peas, and I thought they were good, but I was like, why are they so fibrous? They tasted really sweet and they were really good, but they left that like whole fibrous ball in your mouth when you were done. And then I realized that I was eating shelling peas and my sweet peas weren't even ready yet. And so now I know the difference between shelling peas and sweet peas. Coming from there, I have some more Provider bush beans. I have some Oregon sweet peas. I hate to say this, but this whole area where there were Provider beans, those were planted with Great Northern beans that I bought from MI Gardener, and not one of them sprouted. I don't know if it was what I did or the seeds were bad, but I left them in there for a solid 3 weeks and not one of those northern beans sprouted. So I didn't want to waste the space, and I figured 3 weeks was plenty of time to see if they would sprout. So that's why I went ahead and put those Provider beans in there, and those did sprout. and it doesn't seem like I have 2 sets of beans in there. So I don't know, I am new to gardening, so it totally could have been me, but I didn't have one Great Northern bean sprout. This area in here are black beans. These were black beans that I saved from seed, and they got some pretty serious bug damage on them. And I've kind of just let them be and do their thing, and some of them didn't sprout. I definitely did not have 100% germination rate on here. I'd probably say it was a good 85, and some definitely got decimated, like this one there. That one's not surviving, but the rest of them look pretty good. So I'm just gonna let them go and see what happens in here, because this seed was completely free for me. I have some beets in here that are looking really good. I don't like beets, but I'm hopefully gonna give those to my sister. She loves pickled beets. I don't want anything to do with pickled beets, but I thought I'd make that for her and hopefully gift that to her and she would enjoy that. This bed is giving me issues. I wanna talk to you about this bed. This was my cauliflower Brussels sprout bed that I planted eons ago, and my chickens kept pecking at it. They didn't ever look great, and so I was like, these plants are not going to do well. They're not going to produce anything for me. They were stunted, they had issues. So when I was at Wilco maybe a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, I went ahead and bought a bunch more cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, and I don't know what got to them. Some critter, I don't know if it was a bunny or a chicken. It was actually really weird because I came out here, I don't remember if it was after work or if it was a weekend or something, and I called my husband and I was like, there's a chicken out. There has to be a chicken out, because my chickens love to scratch along the beds here. I don't know if it's because some moisture is held in there and so there's a lot of bugs in there, but I came out here and you can even see over here. I don't know if you can tell, but there's scratch marks where, you know, they scratch at the dirt or the wood chips and get bugs. There was that along tons of my beds. Probably 50% of my beds had signs of, oh, you see, I just stepped in a hole where something had scratched. And in the beds, there were scratch marks, like something had been digging in the bed. And I called my husband, I was like, we've lost a chicken, we've lost a chicken. And then, as I'm talking to him, I count the chickens and we didn't lose a chicken. And so I don't know what got in here. I don't know if my neighbor has chickens, and once I have caught my neighbor's chicken running around in the street. So I don't know if it was my neighbor's chicken that got in here, but I highly doubt that my neighbor's chicken from way over there ended up in here and then made it back to their property without anybody noticing, or if it was a bunny, or if it was, I don't know what it was, because, and what they did is they ate all my cauliflower and Brussels sprouts again. So that was $6, completely wasted, because I don't think those plants again are gonna do anything. So that is a little bit frustrating and a little bit disappointing because that's a waste of time and energy and money, but it's a learning thing. We don't have a fence. It's fenced on 3 sides. It's fenced here, it's fenced here, and it's fenced there. It's not fenced, the front half of the property isn't fenced. And my husband and I were planning on fencing this garden area, but that would cost so much money. And last year I had very little damage. I had 1 pepper plant that got eaten, but then that pepper plant just got really bushy, so it actually worked out. And then I had 2 tomato plants that got eaten, and those tomato plants just grew back no problem. So we figured for the, oh, and they did eat some carrots, but we figured for that little bit of damage that we got, it wouldn't be worth putting in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of materials to put a fence in, because we can share a little bit if we need to. And if we were gonna put a deer fence in, deers can jump 6 feet, so it'd have to be a 7-foot tall fence. And we get deer in here and it wouldn't just be worth it. And we have hundreds of bunnies, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bunnies. I see them every day. Usually they're not, I've never seen one in my garden. I've seen them, they're mostly in my front yard. I think they have a nest in my front yard, but just where I live, there's tons of bunnies. I guess I just have to be okay with sharing a little bit. That's one benefit of having a big garden like this, is that I can afford to lose a little bit, because, you know, if they ate a little bit of this, then hopefully that did well. So that's just, I don't know what got to it. I don't know if it was a chicken. I don't know if it was a bunny, but all that to say, we're probably never gonna fence this, and I'm okay with sharing, I guess. So I'm coming back to the front here a little bit. We're back to the pepper bed here, but back here, this is the garlic, and the garlic looks so good. I'm so happy about this. I cannot wait to harvest this. This is gonna be fun when we get to harvest this. I don't think we get to harvest garlic until July, but this garlic is all the way up. It's all the way up to here on me, and it looks so beautiful. The stalks, some of them are getting pretty big, and I've heard, this is my first time growing garlic, I've heard that the size of the stalk correlates with how big the bulb is, and I've got some big ones. I've got some small ones in here too, but for the most part, there's some really good sized garlics in here. coming from the garlic, the onion bed is looking absolutely fantastic. This half of the bed are the onions I started from seed, and that half of the bed are the onions I bought from Dixondale Farm. I wanted both because I wasn't sure if the ones I started from seed were going to do anything, and so I wanted to try to guarantee myself a harvest, so that's why I bought the ones from Dixondale Farm. And the ones from Dixondale Farm were probably that big when I planted them, and the ones that I started from seed were like super small when I planted them out. And they have almost reached the exact same size. I cannot believe how well mine are doing. I have fed them with fertilizer twice. I fed them with Good Earth all-purpose fertilizer once, and then I have really composted horse manure, and I had it in a wheelbarrow, and it had rained for the 2 days, and that wheelbarrow was really wet and sloshy, and this sounds really gross, but I took that water and I kind of used it as compost tea, or manure tea I should say, and I watered the onion bed with that, and they're looking really fantastic. I'm actually going to be coming out here pretty soon, and I'm going to be harvesting the greens from this. Last year I made green onion top pesto, and it was so good, and so I plan to do that this year, and I will show you guys how to do that. And I need to come out here and I need to spoon around these ones as well, because the dirt definitely has come up the stalks of these, and I want to make sure that I try to give those bulbs as much room as possible. But that's going to be a project because I have, I think, like 500 or 400 onions in here. Another thing that I want to do out in the garden this week is get out here and snip the blossoms off these onions so that they put less energy into the flower and they put more energy into the bulb, into growing big. These are the blossoms here, and this is the flower of the plant. This is what the onion is going to be trying to put most of its energy in if we don't snip those off. So that's another thing that I'm going to come out here and trim, and hopefully we will get a bigger onion harvest because of that. So coming from here, we're going to head straight to this bed. This bed doesn't have much going on with it. There are, I think, 5 volunteer potato plants in here. I'm going to let those go, but this is going to be my sweet potato bed. I do have some sweet potato starts that I grew myself, but they're looking pretty puny, and that's why I bought some from Johnny Seeds, because I'm trying to guarantee myself a harvest. Now, those sweet potato slips were not cheap. They were about $1 each, and I think I have 30 that I have started myself, and I think I bought another 50. So this is not going to be enough space for that. So between this, my straw bale, and some of the original garden beds that the previous owner had, I'm going to try to plant those sweet potatoes wherever they may be. But I can't wait for that. So hopefully that is soon. Coming around, oh, I didn't mention in this bed, my Utah toss celery is looking pretty good. It had some sort of damage at one point. I don't know what did that little bit of weirdness, but a lot of them look really good. And my pink celery is looking so pretty. It's kind of weird. I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy. Oh, there's another one of these. What is this, guys? Tell me what this is. This little, there's a green bug in there. What is this? This was what was in that. Gross. That's gross. I've just found it in a couple things, and I'm assuming they're probably not what we want, so I squished it. This bed I couldn't be happier with. I had a few broccolis in here that I already harvested, and I went through and planted some Swiss chard in there, and I have 2 tomato plants that I need to get planted in here. Actually, I have 3. I forgot where I put those, and obviously I just found them. These broccolis are heading up pretty nice. I've already harvested, like I said, 3 of them. My cabbage is looking really well. This is more spinach. I'm gonna come out tomorrow when I do my big harvest, and I'm gonna harvest a ton of spinach. My cabbage, my green cabbage, this is Golden Acre cabbage, is looking really nice. And my kale is super thriving. We haven't harvested to eat any of this kale for ourselves. I've just been harvesting this kale to give to the chickens, and it'll be a bit before there's enough to really do big harvests for us, but I know that day is coming. Coming around here, you probably saw when I was showing you that bug, there are hundreds of little white flowers, and these white flowers are future strawberries. I actually just purchased 3 flats of strawberries because I need to make sure I have strawberries, because I didn't make strawberry jam last year, and that's my husband and I's favorite. So I went and bought 3 flats so that I have them, but I am pretty hopeful that we are going to get some strawberries out of this year. You can see that some of them are just starting to kind of turn into strawberries, and when I see a little bit more of that, because most of them are just flowers now, I'm going to come out and put slug bait and sluggo this Slugs love strawberries just as much as I do, and I want those strawberries for me, not for those slugs. This bed is a total flop. This was those potatoes that I planted, and you can see nothing's happening here. I tried, after I filmed that last garden tour video, I came out here and tried to dig up potatoes and I couldn't find any, so I think they probably just rotted. Those were potatoes that I had saved seed myself, so that was a big flop, but hopefully we can figure something out for next year and I can try to save seed potatoes. I did plant a few more red cabbages because I kind of wanted a succession of red cabbage, and whatever little woodland creature was in here and eating my cauliflower and Brussels sprouts did do some damage on those red cabbages, but not near as much damage as they did on those other two things. So I think those cabbages are going to come out just fine, and this is super exciting. You see this green, and it's hard to see in here, but there is some purple in here too as well. And this is where I planted all of that kale for the chickens. This is going to be the kale just for chickens. So hopefully the kale that's in this bed over here eventually will just be for my husband and I, and this will be chicken kale. My neighbors are doing a little bit of work back here. This is the back half. I haven't showed you guys this before. This right here is blackberries I have to take care of, but all back here was woods and trees and brush, and you couldn't see very far through that at all, and that was blocking a lot of the sun that my garden gets. And I actually came out here thinking that there was going to be a house built back there, but it's not. They're just clearing that area so that they can have more usable property. First I was a little worried about it because I was worried about privacy, but it's actually not a big deal because our shop is in the way between that area and our house, so the privacy issue is not an issue. But what that does is right through here, not right now because it is shaded now because the sun's on the other side, but this bed actually gets sun now, which it hardly got any sun before. So I'm kind of happy about it because that bed needs more sun. And another update over here is I started to clean this area up. This area was really stressing me out. It was tons of blackberry bushes were starting and weeds, and there still are some over here which I didn't get to, and there's a tree there I need to take care of. And there's tons of weeds back there, but this area looked just like that and it needed to be cleaned up. So Thursday after work, I came out here and I laid cardboard down as a weed barrier. So Thursday after work, I came out here and I pulled, ooh, there's a bug on me, a bunch of weeds, and then I laid cardboard down and I wood chipped this whole area with the same wood chips that I put around the blueberries. And this is looking so much neater and cleaner. And the reason I really wanted to get this done, one is I didn't want blackberries to take over this area because I didn't get to it. But two, when I sit in my chair over there and look out into the garden, this is what I'm looking at, this beautiful view. I was looking at a weedy mess in the back of my property, and it was giving me anxiety and it needed to be done. And so I'm really glad I started this project. This is probably going to take me another 4 or 5 hours to get the rest of it done, but a huge chunk of it's done. I've got 2/3 of it done, so win-win for me. Let me show you what that wood chip pile looks like now as opposed to what it looked like. I'm pretty sure I showed you guys what it looked like before, but it's actually gone down significantly, which is exciting because I can now walk from the garden directly through here. I don't have to walk around 2 big wood chip piles. And I get to sign up for woodchip.com so that I can get more wood chips. So I've kind of cleaned up the mess only so that I can then sign up so that I can get the mess again, which I'm pretty happy about. I like wood chips and I cannot lie. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in my garden today. If you guys have any tips or anything that you're seeing that I'm like absolutely missing or not doing, please let me know because I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just putting seeds in the ground and hopefully something comes up. If you want to join me on this journey and see what produces and what doesn't, go ahead and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye guys.